Hi, this is Brian Daitzman, editor-in-chief of the Intellectualist, and this is the first episode of A History of the Present. It's a series examining the major inflection points shaping this current moment, whether it's artificial intelligence, geopolitics, inequality, democracy, and really how all these forces are converging in 2026. Today, we're joined by a special guest, our first guest at History of the Present, Sree Sreenivasan, a technology expert, a global commentator, and a former chief digital officer of New York City with leadership roles at Columbia University and the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Sree, it's an honor to have you here today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here and an honor, and to be the first guest. What a cool thing. I appreciate that.
Of course, Sree. You know, I brought you here today. You write so well about AI and this current moment and really speaks to the fundamentals of history of the present. I want to understand this. There are people who are seeing a civilizational shift with AI. This is something, it's a new technology, and there is a lot of hype about it. People are discussing how it's going to change civilization. At the same time, there's a lot of credible reporting suggesting that maybe AI is not the silver bullet to our economic needs or silver bullet for Wall Street. And there's a lot of reporting suggesting that maybe the spend on AI could be overblown for really what it is for right now. Sree, am I misreading the moment? What is going on right now with AI?
As usual, you're not misreading the moment. I think that the way that you framed it is really important for us to understand. So if we can do a little bit of history and go back to 99, 2000, 2001, when there was that internet bubble, trillions of dollars were lost, thousands and tens and thousands of jobs were lost because of the dot-com bust. And was that a bubble? It was a bubble. Was it terrible financially as well as with jobs? Yes. But was the internet a bubble? No. The internet would then continue to grow and become more important and embrace us and be part of our lives, and we would embrace it in a very important way, and was the biggest change since the telephone in terms of communications, in terms of business, in terms of the way humanity worked. And here we are at another point where there is so much hype. When I do my takeaways about AI, the number one thing I say is no technology can live up to this hype, and AI is certainly trying. And what we have to think about to understand this is that we can think about technology, predicting how technology is going to affect us in specific ways is always hard, and it's much easier if you try to do things directionally, right? And that's what you would have said about the internet, that whether that was the moment to put your life savings into a particular stock like pets.com or whatever, you would have lost money maybe if you did that. But if you'd bet on the internet over the next 30, 50, 100 years, you would have been right on track. The problem is that we don't like to bet 5, 10, 15 years. We want to bet now. We want to make money now. And you're seeing what's happening with the valuations of these companies, that there are these 7, 8 companies we talk about every day, and those are sometimes investing in each other and pumping up their own valuations. Anthropic, for example, was worth something like $130 billion valuation in, say, September, and then 3 months later it was something like $350 billion. What had changed? Not much, right? By the way, you get that human and animal connection there when you heard my dog.
It's not a robot dog, right?
It's not a robot dog, not yet. Yeah. I mean, you hate to talk like this when you have a pet. If you have one, I love our dog. She's not going to be with us forever. If you said to me, Brian, that there is a way for us to clone her, I would take it. If you said I could make a robot version of her, I would take it. And what I would want is her humanity is not the word, but her essence. Energy, her personality, her essence is what I want. Her soul is what I would want. But that's for another conversation, another time. So to go back to this idea that are we in a bubble? Yes. Is it going to be debilitating and destroy us? We don't know. But the signs are pointing to the people in charge of these things are not the right people. That's what I would argue, that the problem isn't necessarily with the technology, it's with the humans who are in charge of it. And let me give you a couple of examples, and then I want you to drill down as much as you like. So what I mean by that is a lot of the people, you remember the Time magazine cover that they did of where we are in terms of the person of the year. They did that last year, and they had that famous photograph of people sitting on top of these workers, these construction workers who were sitting on top of the of Rockefeller Center as they were building it. And it was that famous photograph kind of redone for the AI age. And I think the moment when they did that, everybody started paying attention much more and say, okay, once it's become kind of Time's person of the year, that these architects of the internet are the person of the year, then you get a sense of, okay, maybe this is that moment that we should be paying attention to this, though some of us would argue that it should have been much before that moment. And I have that picture for us to look at. You can see this right now. There you go. You see the original on the right, and you see that picture on the left from the person of the year. And look at those names, right? These are names most of us know: Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Jensen Huang, Sam Altman, right? You see all of these people. Dario's there as well. Fei Li is there, and Lisa Xu. The good news, I thought they did a really good job of at least putting in some women. Normally, this conversation's all about men, so that's good. But there was a lot of criticism of this cover. I don't know if you caught any of that, Brian, but among the things is, look at those men on the right who are doing the work, some of the hardest work in the world by some of the worst paid, worst conditioned people, while everybody on the left, almost everybody's a billionaire. The people on the right built something with their hands, were helping humanity. The people on the left, most of them, what they've done using these LLMs is steal other people's work. And that's the basis of what we have built in the world with AI. And the people on the right are people you'd like to have a beer with. The people on the left, sure, it'd be cool to meet them, but many of them I wouldn't trust around me or around my children. So that's the kind of the world we're in now. And that's what I mean by these are the people in charge of us. They are the same people, many of them, who did social media. And as you know from the recent trials, and there are going to be many more trials, that every moment they had a choice on fixing things, making it better for their own customers, they chose to make it worse. Moments when Mark Zuckerberg was told this particular setting that we're doing now is causing great harm. He said, anybody else, you and I, and 90% of the world would have said, fix it, because they were told we can fix the engagement. We'll get the engagement back in a few months.
But they're like, what about making more money?
Yeah, it's all about that. And I'm all for making money, but at what cost? And because of that single decision, hundreds of millions of girls and boys have so many mental health issues. And these AI companies, that's one decision. AI companies are making hundreds of decisions every week that are affecting hundreds of millions of people, and we're not ready, and they're not ready.
Sree, you make some great points. So and tell me if I'm right, if I'm distilling what you're saying. So this is a genuine technology that is probably going to have significant impact, like the internet, on the future of human civilization. That said, the people who are running it are maybe not the best representatives for it, right? What do you get to, and how does this harm the technology? The fact that it's very unpopular, right? Can you speak to that? I mean, I was very young when the internet became a thing in the mid 90s, when all of a sudden 95, 96, 97, you start more and more and more, but it was very exciting. Today, some of the polling is very negative on this technology. Can you explain that at all?
Yeah, I can. I think it goes back to the people who have failed us before being in charge. Elon Musk, who I'm very proud to say I wrote in my newsletter in 2018. I said, Elon needs to get off Twitter so that he can build his company. It's a distraction to him. and his ability to succeed. Little did I know that not only is he not going to leave Twitter, he's going to buy the darn thing and ruin it and make it a terrible thing in the world. That's sort of where we are with just as him as an example. But the reason why people are pushing back, because the problems of this particular technology are known a lot sooner than anything else. With the internet, we could see it, we could connect with our grandparents, we could take money out of the bank. Like, all these things were good things. And then some people say, okay, what about porn? What about children? All of that were good things to ask about, and there was awareness. But now with this technology, the immense job loss that's coming, the immense financial profit, which people like, is also coming or is already here. The amount of water it takes to make AI work is almost, is almost unfathomable how much it is. And we see estimates of $1 trillion in new renewable sources of energy are needed to power all this AI. And then you read about the data centers and how we're getting data centers in our communities. And they sound good because you'll hire 500 people to build a data center. Great. But how many people will be there long term? 2 people can run the entire data center. And that's a problem. They need to be cooled. So you've seen suggestions from Elon Musk, dare I say his name again, let's put them in space where there is no temperature in that sense. So you won't need to cool them. Good idea, maybe. But it's the same Elon Musk who put up these satellites, the Starlink train, which I'm sure your audience knows, that you look up in certain parts of the sky and you see a series of Starlink satellites going across the sky. I mean, things like that. So is it possible that we can do all this? Can we try to fix it? But people are speaking up. And then there's the last part of this, to me, is the AI slop. This idea that we should just accept the terrible AI stuff around us, the videos, the bad audio stuff, the bad art. All of that is a problem for us, and that's what we're seeing. So the difference between the late 90s and today is we are a lot more aware of the problem. And the AI companies, to their credit, they did issue a report talking about the problems of AI. And they said, within 6 months of launch of generative AI, they said, this is what we've built is at the same level of global extinction as pandemics and nuclear war. Wow, they're admitting it. That's great. But you know what they said? That's it. Good luck. We're walking away. We're going to continue to do our thing. Imagine saying that if I take this water and I spill it in my building, the whole building is going to explode. Good luck. No, I would carefully take it out throw it in the river. I don't know what I would do, but I would try to do something, not assure you that everything's going to be all right after I've told you everything's not going to be all right. And that's where we are today.
Sree, you make some excellent points. There are moral arguments here. I hear a lot of moral arguments. I hear economic arguments, legal arguments. Sree, what is your take on the fact that the Pentagon is using, at least reporting, is using Claude in its decisions for military purposes? What are your thoughts on that, Sree?
Yeah, I'm obsessed with this story. And here we are in the middle of a war where some of the humans in charge are the problem. But this is all about whether the weapons of war, the last thing that makes the decision whether to push the button or not is a robot or a human. And on a Friday, right before the war started, on a Saturday, on Friday, this all came to a head. And Hegseth insisted that Anthropic, that is Claude, adjust their settings so that the machine decides before a human, or the last decision is made by a human. And Anthropic fought back and said, we're not asking to change everything. We're just saying, just make sure a human makes the decision. And why that was important was just that day and the day before came a research study that showed that in simulations, every single time, over hundreds of simulations, when machines have to decide whether to push the button or not, faced with a problematic situation, whether to go to war or not. They never de-escalated, never calmed things down, never lowered the temperature. Every single time they pushed the button.
So you're saying it was escalatory every time.
Every single time. So we just got that information. And so, okay, this is a theoretical thing. We don't have to worry about it. The next day, the Pentagon says, we want you, Anthropic, to put machines in charge. And they said no. And that became a kind of cultural moment where people like Katy Perry and others started buying Claude subscriptions and saying, go Claude, go Dario. That was like a moment that none of us expected, that suddenly Claude were the good guys and were seen that way. And the employees were so grateful. All of that happened. So we went to bed Friday night understanding the state of the world. That, by the way, just before we went to bed, of all people, Sam Altman raised his hand. And when Sam Altman raises his hand, it's almost never a good thing, because he raised his hand and said, we'll do it. So we went to bed knowing that
there was no on the table.
Yeah, there was they're willing to have their machines make the decisions. So we went to bed with that, and also Pete Hegseth and Trump essentially canceling the entire contract with the Pentagon and putting Anthropic in permanent jeopardy by saying down the entire supply chain, any of the suppliers to any federal government contracts that uses Anthropic will not be able to, will have their contracts canceled. So this is a Republican administration, which is ostensibly pro-free market, not just putting a thumb on a scale, but putting a executioner's hood, a hangman's hood on Anthropic. Okay, so we go to sleep thinking that. Next morning, the war starts and we're bombing. And because we knew it would take up to 6 months to extract Anthropic out of the DOD situation, and by the way, we can't call it DOD, we have to call it DOW, and that they would have to be pulling that out. Of course, 8 hours was not enough, and Anthropic was used to bomb various places in the Middle East and in Iran. So that's how things changed so dramatically.
I'm curious. So, Sree, I've been reading your blog, and it's an excellent blog. Can you please plug it? I don't want to get the name wrong.
Sure. It's a newsletter, and it's SreeNet on Substack, so sreenet.substack.com. Also available on LinkedIn if you connect with me there. That means a lot coming from you, because your content that you folks put out at the Intellectualist is so important and vital, and your audience is much, much bigger than mine. I like to say I have a small but mighty audience, but it's not that mighty compared to yours. So thank you. I appreciate that. And we focus on the intersection of technology, life, politics, and where we go from here.
And Sree, I really want to ask you this question, because that's getting to the Substack. So you've been overseas. I see you're meeting with people overseas, people in academia and science, and you're seeing this big picture. President Donald Trump, he likes to say that we are respected now, April 2026, now more than in the entire history of the American Republic. Sree, is that your experience?
No, it's not. I have a slide that we can look at from the newsletter where it's an image of me in 5 countries in Asia. I just came back, and I was supposed to start Dubai, Shanghai. That flight got canceled. All those got canceled, but I did Singapore, Hong Kong, Sri Lanka, Turkey, and then India. So these are important countries in the world. And every place I go, I had to answer for the United States. I had to answer for presidents. And you know that anytime you travel, Americans have that burden. And anyway, but nothing like I've seen now. This is the first time I've been abroad properly in this year. And so there you go. You see, I was all over the place and seeing so many different people. And the question came up again and again: what is happening with this country? What is your president doing? And I want to tell you about one particular exchange I had was with a cab driver an Uber driver in Sri Lanka, who said, "Why is your president hurting me. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, what he's doing is raising gas prices, and Uber does not lift its prices in proportion. So who pays the price? I do. It's because of you and your president. And you're kind of speechless at the time. So to say that America is more respected is just another lie. And we saw this back in the first administration. There's a famous video of the other presidents of our allies kind of laughing about the Trump family.
Yeah,
you remember that. Yeah, you remember that. So yeah. It's just another lie. But this time I was asked, why is this happening now? What is going on in the world with this war and everything else? And I said, this is what happens when the worst person in the world has the most power in the world. That's a deadly combination, and something we haven't seen very often in history. Every time we've seen something like that, there's been pain around the world. Today, there's pain around the world because of one man and his enablers, including in Congress and elsewhere, who have made it possible. And so you've seen the stories in Indonesia. There, everybody has to work from home on Friday. In Malaysia, everybody who works for the government has to stay home, work from home. Weddings being canceled, events being canceled. Farmers were about to get hit by huge price increases.
That's really what I want to get to. That's what I want to get to. That last, because Sree, we're not hearing enough about this. I'm very concerned. I'm seeing reporting from very credible economists, experts who are saying that what's going on right now with the Strait of Hormuz is going to lead to significant downstream economic consequences for regular working people. And this is not just the United States. Obviously, this is the entire world, particularly as it comes to food and famine. My question for you, and because we don't have much time, I'd love to have you back on to discuss all of this again, is right now with the Strait of Hormuz, the situation as it is right now, what is the economic outlook realistically, defensively, you foresee for the world and Americans? Because Americans don't necessarily understand the linkage between what's going in Strait of Hormuz. They see this war. They maybe see some higher gas prices immediately, but that's not really fully priced into what's going on. Can you please, if you can, explain really what is coming down the pike for us?
Right. So the problem you identified is that America can go to war and we can still have dinner parties. America can go to war and life continues as usual. And therefore we continue to go to war. What is our history of regime change success in the world? And by the way, in the history of the world, there's never been a regime change success story that was entirely air-based. You need boots on the ground. But to your question, if the Straits of Hormuz, which were open, by the way, very happily on February 27th, so that's our new military goal, is to open the strait, which is already open.
It was already open.
If we open it today, the effects are going to last for years and years even then. Why? Because of two big things. Just the downstream effects, as you said, and then America's standing in the world, the trust that anyone's going to have with America, already torn to shreds by the tariffs. The tariffs have imposed on our allies and friends, has shaken those allies and friends. So the economic impact is going to be huge. And it's not going to open tomorrow because Iran has decided that, even Iran has obviously done many things wrong, and they have a fanatical religious government. We have a fanatical religious government.
Right? Is that the problem? I mean, what I'm reading is that Iranians don't trust the Trump administration. So let's just be very clear. The Iranian regime is not a good regime, right? They treat their people terribly. They have no respect for rights.
Killed 30,000 people of their own people. Yeah,
they're an awful regime. All right, and so they are. And so I just want to make this clear: are they taking advantage of the lack of strategy of Trump? Let's just bomb, see what happens.
Yeah, remember, this is not just Trump. This is a historical thing. You remember we had John McCain, now the sainted John McCain in many of our eyes. He sang a song. He said, "Bomb, bomb, Iran, like Barbara Ann, like that song," because this has been a goal of so many people to shut down Iran and change, because they are responsible for so many bad things in the world. But this president came to power in part by saying no more forever wars. We're not the world's policemen. We're not going to go to war. This is why you don't see Vance that much, because that's what he tied his future onto, was saying that we don't go to war. Even Tulsi Gabbard, our head of national intelligence, said no war with Iran. That was her defining statement, no war with Iran. And here we are. So how we as a country deal with this is that because it has no consequences apart from the pump at the moment, we are not seeing people, apart from those who are already angry about so many things. And this is what I tell my kids, and I'm sure you see this everywhere, that if everything's on a scale of 1 to 10, a 12, then you'll never pay attention. And this is the brilliance of Steve Bannon, who today the Supreme Court has paved the way for him to be cleared of all charges for what he did for January 6th, that he said, flood the zone with shit. I don't know if we're allowed to say that on your air, but that's what we're doing. And because there's so much chaos, people are tuning this out. I was with some friends this weekend who are just like, we don't pay attention anymore. I talk to my kids, they tell us that their generation is so upset already, nothing to do with the war, already upset about where things are going, where jobs are. It's such a downer that paying attention to any of this doesn't matter. I wanted to watch Meet the Press, and somebody at home said, why? Because nothing's going to change. Why waste an hour of your time watching the longest running show on television? Because nothing's going to matter. And that attitude pains me, because we have so much opportunity. This country, the planet, can do so much for good. And we also have huge crises coming, real crises that we need to tackle. You remember the show on Netflix, Don't Look Up, during the pandemic, right? The world is like that. There's an asteroid coming, and we're saying, okay, we're going to worry about this bottle of pills while the asteroid is coming, and that's where we are.
Sree, I want to. This. I promise this will be the last question, because I really enjoyed this conversation. Are you hopeful about democracy for the United States long term?
I am worried about democracy because we can't blame everything on Trump. He exploited a systemic problem in the country where the inequality that we have in the country was able to make us teeter kind of on where we were, and we didn't appreciate it. So, you never know that these were the good days when you're in them. That's a saying that they have. We didn't know that the good days were here, even in the terrible days of George W. Bush going to war that was unnecessary. By the way, Mohammed al-Baradei, who was head of the Atomic Energy Agency, who begged us not to attack Iraq, not to end up spending $1 trillion and millions of lives destroyed, he's now warning us about Iran. And he's saying we're doing the same thing again. We don't listen. And that's why the title of your podcast is so important, because history matters. And we're a country who celebrates the forefathers and the fathers of, the founding, and then collective amnesia all the way down. And here we are. So, and even the things we remember about history are wrong in many cases, starting with the cherry tree and good old Georgie boy. But we have so much this country can do good in the world, and has done good in the world, and has made the world a better place in so many ways. But once you draw aside the curtain, then you see all the damage we have done. So I want our democracy to be successful. I want us to be a country that can be a beacon of light in the world. I chose to come here and migrate. I'm an immigrant to this country. That means I love this country more than most people were just born here and there's an accident, right? So I make this comparison, Ryan, between digital natives and digital immigrants. You know that terminology. You're a digital native because you were born when the internet was already here and people were using it. I was born with, I grew into a manual typewriter. So, right. So we're different in how we approach the world, but also immigrants and native born people are different, because I appreciate this country in a way because I fought to be here. And even for someone of my background, my privilege, it's not easy to become a citizen in this country. And that's why whenever I hear Republicans or conservatives talk about rampant, illegal immigration, it is so tiny compared to the opportunities to bring good people here that we're failing to do. So I want to, your readers and your listeners and viewers are going to think, what, this guy's Debbie Downer, like in every single way. But I want your audience to know that I am optimistic about where we go. But the question becomes, what kind of world do we live in? So I have these takeaways about AI that might be interesting for your audience to just see and understand. And I'm going to just throw them up here so that you can discuss them. But it starts by saying, right on the screen, it starts by saying that no tech can live up to the hype. Every industry will be affected. Lots of money will be made and lost. Most careers will be upended. All kinds of things here. But it says at the very end, it says Team Human will prevail. Team Human will prevail. But the question, Brian, is what kind of humans? Will it be more Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg? Or will it be people who care about other people or not just about making money? As I said, I'm a capitalist. I grew up in part in the Soviet Union. I have seen what communism does in the world, and I have seen the pain it causes. So I want us to make money. I want everybody to make money, but we're coming to a point where hundreds of millions of jobs could be affected and nobody's prepared. We're not prepared. The government doesn't talk about it. Leaders, companies, no one is talking about it. And we are in deep, deep trouble as a result of that. And that's why I'm worried. But with people like you and your audience, I think we can put enough pressure that people start paying attention.
Sree, I love that. I think that's a fair place to end this, because obviously we can't predict the future. And in the end, it's all our own choices which are going to matter. Sree, it's really been an honor to have you on today on History of the Present, particularly the first episode, to talk about all of these issues. And we would love to have you come back again to talk about these, because there's just so much to discuss. And it's just been such a pleasure. So, Sree, I just want to say thank you. History of the Present, also Lincoln Square, having you on, and